Hi, this is Eli from Guitar Center. We're here at Winter NAMM 2026, and we're at the Walrus audio booth, and we're here with none other than Ian Martin Allison to talk through this beautiful pedal here, the Mantle.
Yeah.
Now, Ian, if I have my backstory correct on this, the idea for this came about a few years ago at NAMM at this booth. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had wanted to make a really lovely sort of studio channel that was really simple, but that involved two of my favorite pre's in the studio and also transformers, just like the Neve 1073 and then API 512, 312. So I pitched it, and these guys, I'm amazed. I'm amazed that this exists because they were so cool to say yes to this. So essentially that's what we did, is we made this beautiful, almost sort of like channel strip that has two transformers. The input transformer is like Neve 1073, and then the output transformer is like API. So the idea is you have this sort of low and mid-range push of Neve 1073, and then that sort of like open
Airiness?
Yeah, the kind of airiness of the API architecture just in one box. And to my knowledge, I don't know if that's been done before. Maybe it has, but I didn't know about it. And I'd always loved those two particular boxes in the studio. I thought it'd be wonderful to have in a pedal format, also with really simple two-band EQ, but that these two-band EQs actually do a different thing in their boost range than they do in their cut range. So it's really sophisticated, and there's different caps for every click position. And I did say click position. I mean, Eli, I feel like you should give it a.
That's really nice.
Trying to do a little ASMR there. That's great. It's really lovely to use. So yeah, each position does click, and apart from it being kind of like a lovely thing to interact with, it's also really sort of screams studio architecture, but it also is so functional, because if you're on a gig, like obviously you can use this in the studio or in a place that doesn't move, but if you're on the road or you use it anywhere on a stage, if you set this and you kind of know where you like it, like you're like, well, I like 8, 5, 7. These don't change unless you deliberately change them. So if a chord goes over the top, nothing is changing, right? You have to really intentionally change them. And I've been on stages where things get moved, and then I go to play my first note, and the bass is either, it's been blasted out, or the bass knob has been turned off or something. And so this is really nice because you sort of look down and you can rest assured that they're going to stay put. That's actually like really important to me as a touring musician and a studio musician.
This really does blend so much of studio and stage, the components, the sonics of it, scream studio, but the control layout, and like you said, some of the step stuff, obviously that helps in the studio with recalling certain settings. But yeah, what's that balance? Because obviously, you're a touring player, you're a studio guy, Corey Wong, Gavin DeGraw, the list goes on, a amazing player and content creator in his own right. But like, talk through that balance of clearly aimed at the studio musician, but so many quality of life things for the touring player.
Yeah, I really think it's a nice hybrid of both, because it operates on a desk. It would look amazing on a desk, right? If it doesn't ever move from your home studio, that's fine. But if you take it on the road, it's robust. It's transformers, right? So it's solid state architecture. There's not tubes in it that you might be worried might go out. I love tube gear, but I've also had tube gear fail on outdoor festivals. And I just want the bass to always work. Like, it has to always work. So there's a really nice bit of confidence about a box like this, is nothing is going to die or flame out or get too hot, right? Because it's just transformers and JFETs, and it sounds so good, and it gets warm like tubes, but has no reliability. It doesn't have the same reliability issues that tubes do.
Got it. So you touched on earlier that it's a boost cut, so it's a tilt on each one, right? Can you talk through, I guess, some of the pros and cons? You touched on it a little bit, but that decision over any other kind of configuration, or like a multi-band kind of thing that might have made more sense in the studio alone. But yeah, talk us through the tilt controls.
Eli, I'm down to get nerdy with you all day. All right, so here's the deal. At the center, at the 6th position, it's flat. And then as you boost, it's like a bandpass bell. So sort of a typical as you boost in like a DAW, you'd see it go up, and then the Q tightens as you go up. I think the low end is centered around 68 to 70 hertz, but a broad band boost, and then the Q tightens as it boosts. But then the cut is different. The cut is actually a high pass filter. So as you start to cut, it introduces a high slope roll off, 30 hertz, 50 hertz, then maybe 80 hertz, 100 hertz. So it is a completely different EQ, whether it's in boost or cut, and the high end is the same. I think it's centered around 4.9K, and as you boost, it's this big, beautiful shelf, and it's the place in the bass that I like to boost the most in terms of high end. Brings up a lot of clarity, but as you cut, it's almost like a cab filter. So in the first cut range, it I think cuts immediately at, I believe, at 10, or maybe it's 8K, then 6, right? Then 4, then 2, then 1, all the way down to, and it's a big shelf. So you can really drastically alter the frequency spectrum just by boosting or cutting these two knobs, much like maybe you would in the studio. And those are the types of EQ that I'm looking for, both in the studio and live. I think they're the most helpful, and it's just all super easy to click through.
We got nerdy for a minute there.
We did.
For sure we got nerdy. What do those specific cues, maybe if someone's not looking and reaching for the graph of what those do, what's something that the average player can hear and go, oh, I understand what that's doing now?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So in the low end, for instance, when you do that first notch of cut, it's taming sub energy. So it's pulling out everything below 30 hertz, right? And you might not feel it on your home system, but in a church or in a giant PA system in a large venue, you'll absolutely feel it, and it might clear everything up. Then 50, right? Then maybe 70, all the way down to, like, let's say you're playing baritone guitar, bass 6, maybe even acoustic guitar. The low cut is so nice because it cuts all those sub frequencies, which is always what I want to do. I never want to reduce the frequencies that make my bass, the low end of my bass, sound delicious. I don't want to reduce 80 hertz in kind of a bell. I want to cut out the sub energy, and that's what this EQ does. And then the same thing for the high end. As I'm reducing high end, it cuts out the sizzle, right? So 10K, 8K, 6K, etc. down, almost acting more like a cab filter, which I think in treble cut is the most useful kind of cut for bass.
Very cool. Going back to the origins of the amp, the idea on paper, mainly Neve meets API. Was there anything, maybe some of the demo early prototype units that didn't quite mesh or that kind of changed the trajectory of what this is you're holding in your hand?
Totally. We experimented so much. Different transformer types. We experimented with different EQ points. One of the first early prototypes has several different EQ knobs just to see, like, what do we want to commit to? We also could have made this have 20 knobs. It's more difficult to make a product simple, beautiful, and really useful than it is to fill a box with features. So I really wanted to make something that was aesthetically really beautiful and operated really well, but that was simple. There's a pretty complicated thing going on under the hood, but if you want more bass or less bass, you click the knobs. If you want more gain or less gain, you click the knob, etc., right? But what we had to do is test out a lot of those EQs. What do we want to commit to? And so instead of like putting it all in, we made some decisions about what kind of things we wanted to commit to in terms of frequency centers and the type of EQ that we wanted to use.
What was something that you, as you went through that process, you said, no matter what, this one aspect of it has to remain the same throughout this process?
It needed to click. I wanted the steps. This is so tactily satisfying. And I'm a really big believer in if I'm interacting with a piece of gear every day of my life. So this piece of gear I'm using every single day. And instead of thinking of it as kind of this like, this utility box that I don't care about, I want to think about this as like a really lovely, well-built, considered solution that when I see it, I love it. I'm excited to use it. I'm excited to click the knobs. I'm excited to see the logo light up, which it does. I want all of those things to delight me in its use. I mean, there's so many products that are less expensive and that are great. No knock on products that are less expensive. This is not for everyone, and the price point isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But I wanted to make something for people that thought, oh, I want to use this product. I like the use case. It works for them. They understand what they're going to be getting out of like subtly saturating input and output transformers. They're excited about 3D cleans, you know, and they're excited about using something that feels lovely, bespoke, and really a joy to interact with.
We're all excited to get our hands on this. When can people expect this on the shelves?
Okay, so there was a first batch that sold out, but there's a second batch, I believe, coming in 4 weeks. Is that right? I'm looking over at my man, Matt Danner here from Walrus. He's giving me the numbers. We're fingers crossed that that's correct. But the response has been huge. We couldn't have asked for just a better rollout. People have been really, really excited about it. Again, there are so many options out there, and I'm just really happy that this is now one of the options out there.
Ian, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for bringing this to the market. This is super, super exciting. For all you at home, stay tuned. Stock is limited, but it's coming back. 4 weeks, we said?
Yeah.
4 weeks, fingers crossed. Stay tuned for all our NAMM coverage here on YouTube, or go to guitarcenter.com for all the latest NAMM releases.
My man.